I'm Margaret O'Connor, 68 years old, and the sting of my daughter-in-law's cruel words still echoes in my heart. One day before my son's wedding, my daughter-in-law said, "The best gift would be if you disappeared from our family." Stick around to uncover the jaw-dropping twist that awaits. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and activate the bell. It was a crisp autumn morning on April 12th, 2025. In Melbourne, the air tinged with the scent of eucalyptus from the Royal Botanic Gardens and the distant hum of trams along St. Kilda Road, when I stood in the cozy living room of the family home. A modest terrace in Fitzroy I'd poured my savings into after my husband's passing in 2018. The room, with its worn velvet sofa, framed photos of my son James growing up, and a faint scent of lavender from the candles I'd lit, had always been my sanctuary. But that day, it became the stage for a betrayal that shattered my world. I was 68, a retired nurse with a quiet strength, my hands still steady from years of caring, my life dedicated to raising James after his father's heart attack left us with a mortgage and memories. I'd moved us to this terrace in 1999, stitching together a life with night shifts at St. Vincent's Hospital, my savings a cushion against the 15% interest rates of the early 2000s, my name a quiet anchor among neighbors who admired my resilience. That morning, as I arranged a wedding invitation on the mantel, James's big day set for April 13th, 2025, at a vineyard in the Yarra Valley, funded by a $20,000 loan I'd co-signed, my daughter-in-law, Claire, stormed in. Her sharp words cut through the hum of a ticking clock. "The best gift would be if you disappeared from our family." Her tone was icy, her eyes cold, blaming me for meddling in their plans, overseeing the caterer, suggesting a modest guest list, my attempts to preserve my role. To erase me, she enlisted James, who mumbled excuses about new priorities, and her parents, who echoed her disdain, labeling me overbearing with fabricated tales of my interference in their $15,000 floral budget. My savings, once a shared resource, were now a target, Claire hinting at reclaiming the house I deeded to James in 2022 to secure his future. My sister, Eileen, tried to mediate, but Claire's influence silenced her, leaving me isolated in a room that once held laughter. The invitation, now a symbol of my exclusion, sat beside an empty chair where I'd once sat with James, its edges curling as if mirroring my fading place. Those words, "disappear from our family," became a relentless drumbeat, echoing through every chore I finished, every memory I replayed, every glance at the Melbourne skyline through the window. I felt the weight of that moment in the weeks that followed, sitting on the velvet sofa, the torn invitation in my lap, as I flipped through old letters and bank statements in the Age, the ink smudging my fingers, my eyes heavy from nights spent plotting. The living room, with its chipped teacup on the side table Eileen had gifted, a rug frayed from years of pacing, and a single window framing the city spires, felt like a prison of their neglect. Eileen took extra shifts at her bakery in Collingwood, her mornings filled with the scent of sourdough, a sacrifice to support me, while I pieced together a fragile plan with pension checks from Centrelink, odd jobs sewing for neighbors in Richmond, and savings I'd hidden in a biscuit tin. My grandson, Liam, born in 2020 to James, grew up with my knitted blankets, his toddler questions a soft ache. "Why's Mummy mad at you, Nana?" he'd ask, his small hands clutching my scarf. I'd smile through the lump in my throat, spinning tales of new adventures, but the truth gnawed. Claire and James had sidelined me, their narrative of my intrusiveness spreading to relatives, their control a wall against my voice. Claire and James's dominance grew in the months that followed. By late 2024, they'd plan a lavish wedding, $50,000 for the venue, a dress from Collins Street, a honeymoon in Tasmania while I was relegated to guest status, my contributions dismissed as unnecessary. I rebuilt quietly, consulting a lawyer friend, Margaret, who offered free advice over tea in her Carlton flat, her sharp mind a beacon. But the wound deepened with every wedding update. Claire's smug posts on Instagram, James's silence at family dinners, Liam's confusion at my absence, each a fresh jab. Margaret, widowed like me, kept me steady with her stories of justice, her hand-knitted shawl of comfort, while I tracked their plans, noting Claire's demands for control over the house deed. The turning point came on April 11th, 2025, when Claire's threat solidified. James called, his voice strained. "Mum, just step back. It's what she wants." My pulse raced. This was my cue. That night, I contacted Margaret, who drafted a power of attorney clause I'd overlooked in the deed, giving me leverage. "You can act, Margaret," she said, her tone firm. "They've overreached." On April 12th, 2025, I turned the living room into my command center. Amid blankets and scarves, I accessed online records, my fingers trembling but resolute. At 9 a.m., I found it, a loophole in the deed allowing me to reclaim the property if abandoned. My hands shook as I printed it, the past merging with action. That afternoon, at 2:42 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, I sat by the window, the Melbourne skyline, a quiet witness, plotting my move. The wedding was tomorrow, a day to mask their greed. I'd disappear, not as a victim, but as their undoing. What they didn't know was I'd transformed their betrayal into a plan of justice, forged by 68 years of grit. The 24 hours leading to the wedding were a meticulous weave of strategy and silence. My days in the living room a cover for the revenge stitching in my mind. By April 12th, 2025, the room, its walls lined with photos faded by sun, its table cluttered with knitting needles and legal papers, its air tinged with lavender and tea, became my atelier where every stitch and signature fueled my resolve. Margaret and I met that evening, her laptop open on the sofa as we reviewed the deed and bank records, the soft tick of the clock a rhythm to our planning. The house, deeded to James in 2022, had been my investment. Its value now $800,000, while my contributions, roof repairs, garden upkeep, had been ignored, leading to Claire's takeover. Margaret's research revealed a pattern: James's signature on a $30,000 loan for the wedding, Claire's emails demanding my exit, a cover-up of a 2024 property dispute hushed with family pressure. A fragile empire on the brink. I contacted Mr. Patel, a retired banker who'd advised me in 2018, his steady voice joining us via a crackling phone call from his home in Brunswick. "You can sell and vanish. Hit them at the altar," he suggested, his tone laced with old wisdom. I nodded, my plan a tapestry crafted from years of suppressed loyalty. Each thread a memory of lost trust, stolen home, broken bonds. The wedding, set for 3 p.m. on April 13th, 2025, at the Yarra Valley Vineyard, would be their stage, a gathering of 150 guests, relatives, media, and sponsors, all drawn by the promise of prestige under the vineyard's golden vines. I'd pose as a grieving mother, my dress swapped for a plain outfit with a hidden pocket, my movements slow with a cane to conceal my intent, my gray hair in a neat bun a symbol of my enduring dignity. My task was to execute the sale and leave a message, with Margaret signaling the real estate agent at 2 p.m., timed with the rehearsal, ensuring maximum disruption. I secured the sale through Mr. Patel, who networked with a buyer from South Yarra. His email on April 12th, a signed contract. I clutched like a needle, his note reading, "Justice is yours, Margaret." He suspected nothing, his support a tool I'd wield with care. Preparation was a rigorous stitch, a blend of physical discipline and emotional steel. I practiced my shuffle daily along the Fitzroy Gardens path, perfecting a weary gait and a warm, unassuming smile that masked my burning resolve, my cane tapping a rhythm of patience against the gravel. I rehearsed lines, just here to wish them well. Though each word carried the weight of Claire's betrayal, Eileen's steadfast sisterhood, and Liam's innocent trust in my past. Physically, I knitted scarves and folded blankets daily, my hands protesting, but each loop strengthened my will to stand tall that day. I revisited old mementos, wedding drafts from 2024, a faded photo with James at his graduation, a blanket Liam loved, a rejected guest list, each a spark in my fire. One night, I found a trashed box of my savings records, its contents lost, and wept, the lost security fueling my fury. I tracked Liam's life, his preschool songs, his bond with a girl named Mia, hoping this act would secure his future free from Claire's shadow. On April 12th, Claire called, her tone smooth with false warmth. "Margaret, just stay home. It's better this way," she said, her voice polished but laced with control. I agreed, hiding my scheme. She didn't suspect I'd coordinated with Margaret, who'd lined up Mr. Patel's buyer, or that I'd commissioned an outfit with a hidden pocket, its fabric a shield of my past honor. The outfit arrived that night, tailored by a local seamstress from Richmond, Mrs. McGuinn, who chatted about her quilts. Unaware of my mission, I tested the pocket, sliding the contract and a note inside. There weighed a promise of justice. At 1:30 p.m. on April 13th, I left the vineyard alive with the clink of glasses and the murmur of excited guests, the Yarra Valley a blur through the window. James spotted me near the gate, frowning. "Mum, you came?" "Leave, please," he muttered. I nodded, my cane steady, my pocket ready, at 2:05 p.m. As the rehearsal began, I signed the sale with the agent, my pulse a drumbeat. I slipped Margaret the contract, whispering, "Now." She nodded, calling Mr. Patel. At 2:15 p.m., the agent confirmed the house sold for $800,000, the wedding funds frozen, Claire's scream echoing as she learned. The cancellation hit, her face paling as guests dispersed. The vineyard ceremony dissolved into a whirlwind of chaos, guests scattering like startled cockatoos fleeing the golden vines, media cameras pivoting to capture every frame of the unfolding family drama, Claire's protests drowned by the agent's firm announcements that reverberated off the rustic barn, the lights casting fractured beams across the scene. Liam stood stunned near a floral arch, Mia's hand on his shoulder offering silent support, his eyes wide with shock as the truth hit, while relatives murmured in clusters, their social world shaken by the scandal. I stood tall, my outfit a badge of my hard-earned resolve forged over 68 years, my cane a symbol of strength that had carried me through the toughest nights, my heart pounding with a mix of vindication and the bittersweet ache of a family nearly lost to Claire's greed that had cast a long shadow. The agent swarmed the stage, his dark suit a stark contrast to the vineyard's elegant decor of wood and flowers, presenting the sale papers as Claire roared, "This is theft! Margaret, you'll pay!" her voice cracking with the desperation of a bride watching her dream collapse. They read terms: house sold, wedding canceled, funds reclaimed, each word a hammer blow to her plans, the list growing with a $20,000 loan default that funded her dress, their voices steady as they recited the litany. Margaret approached, her voice a lifeline amid the din of shouting and camera shutters. "They're done, Margaret. You've won. Her empire's gone," she said, her eyes alight with the thrill of the reckoning. The media frenzy was immediate, headlines like "O'Connor's wedding ruin," and "Mother's 68-year revenge" blazed across screens. By 6 p.m., my name a murmur of awe in the chaos that swirled through the valley, microphones thrust toward me like needles seeking a thread. Claire turned to me, her face flushed with rage that modeled her once confident features, sweat beading on her brow like dew on a vine, her white dress now crumpled as the agent tightened his grip on the papers, her posture slumping under the weight of defeat. "You? After all this time, you spiteful old hag? You've destroyed us," she bellowed, her voice breaking with the desperation of a bride whose reputation was shredded, her hands shaking as she pointed at me with a trembling finger. I met her gaze, unflinching despite the tremor in my own hands that betrayed the adrenaline coursing through me, my voice clear and resonant with the strength of 68 years of silent suffering that had honed my resolve. "You said I should disappear. Claire, that my presence ruined your day. I proved you right with a sale that outlasts your greed, with grit that outran your schemes, with every stitch I made while you stole and faltered. This is my payback, for me, for Liam whose future you shadowed, for every relative you ignored, for every bond you broke with your ego. She lunged, her bouquet raised in a futile gesture of defiance that spoke of her last grasp at control, but the agent restrained her with firm hands, dragging her out as James sobbed uncontrollably, his ring box slipping to shatter on the ground in a spray of gold, a symbol of his fallen dreams. Liam rushed to me, his voice breaking through the noise like a lifeline tossed into a stormy field. "Nana, I didn't know." "I'm sorry for believing them," he said, tears streaking his face as he wrapped his arms around me. The first embrace in months that mended a rift I'd feared growing. I hugged him back, the warmth of his body against mine a balm to the wounds of the past, Mia nodding in support with a quiet smile, a bridge to a future reclaimed from the shadows of my past. The crowd buzzed with reporters, their microphones thrust toward me like threads seeking a weave. But I turned away, my victory a private tapestry burning bright within, a celebration no scandal could dim. The fallout was swift and relentless, a reckoning that dismantled the remnants of Claire's wedding empire. The agent transferred the $800,000 to my account, seizing the vineyard deposit and records from the planner's office in South Yarra, where files sat silent, documents from loan agreements hauled away in boxes, freezing their personal savings that held the profits of their deceit, halting their honeymoon across Victoria where they'd once planned, while inspectors reviewed the deed for fraud, uncovering a safe with forged signatures. Their celebration collapsed like a dropped stitch, their reputation tarnished beyond repair, friends distancing themselves with whispers, their names a cautionary tale murmured in cafes from Fitzroy to Collingwood, a fallen couple replaced by silence. The media dug deeper, uncovering a $10,000 slush fund for bribed vendors that funded Claire's veil and James's suit, a detail that sent shockwaves through the Melbourne social scene and prompted a family inquiry, the scandal-dominating evening news. Liam reconciled fully, joining me in learning knitting for my home, while Eileen and I planned a quiet retreat to a cottage we'd saved for, the scent of lavender a promise of peace. Claire faded from social circles, her friend group dissolving like a receding tide, and relatives, including her mother, distanced themselves, seeking new ties to escape the taint. I didn't gloat. My goal was justice, not destruction, a balance I'd learned from years of caring. But the sight of their fall brought a profound peace that filled the hollow left by their neglect, a quiet satisfaction that settled in my soul like a well-knit blanket. That afternoon, at 2:42 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time on April 13th, 2025, I sat with a cup of tea that glowed amber in the sunlight, the news confirming their ruin on a muted radio, a letter from James in hand, its envelope creased from my grip. "Mum, I was wrong. Help us." It pleaded, his handwriting shaky, with the defeat that had finally overtaken him. The ink smudged, as if by tears of regret. I didn't reply, the past too raw, my strength too hard-won to soften now, the paper crumpling in my fist as I set it aside to focus on the celebration ahead. Months later, their hearing began in a courtroom in Melbourne Magistrates Court, the agent and inspectors wielding my evidence with the precision of a seamstress's hand, Margaret's testimony a damning narrative of legal overreach, and Mr. Patel's deed records of final weave, the gallery filled with former friends who nodded in silent support, their invitations traded for regrets. I attended the first day, my presence a silent testament to my journey from sidelined mother to this moment, seated beside Liam and Eileen, whose hand I held tightly, and watched Claire's defense crumble under the weight of truth, dozens of vendors stepping forward with tales of pressure and theft, their voices a chorus of validation that echoed through the room. The judge, a stern jurist with a passion for fairness and a gavel that rang like a needle tap, ordered a full investigation, hinting at a potential restitution and fines that loomed like a blank canvas, his ruling a vindication of my 68-year wait. Liam and I launched O'Connor Crafts, restoring family pride with knitted goods, hiring Margaret as a consultant whose expertise bridged my past and present, while Eileen retired from baking to teach cooking to kids, her hands finding new purpose in dough. I visited the terrace once, its rooms silent with the absence of James's voice, its photos a memory of my youth, a monument to their greed, and my redemption that stood tall in my heart. My revenge, 68 years in the making, was not just justice served with a stroke of spite. It was my rebirth, a celebration reclaimed from the wreckage of their entitlement, a testament to the resilience I'd always carried within, a masterpiece that grew richer with each bond one mended.